Welcome back to Procrastinator's Pit Stop. I'm Chris, and today we have another incredible guest joining us. Our mission here is to fuel your drive to get things done by exploring the journeys of individuals who have successfully overcome procrastination and mastered productivity. Our guest today is Myles Daniel. Myles is a seasoned entrepreneur with over 5 years of experience across diverse industries. After high school, Myles actually played basketball at a prep school in Florida, where he earned a basketball scholarship to St. Thomas University in Miami, Florida. After that, he graduated magna cum laude from the University of Ottawa, where he got his finance degree, and he even purchased his first investment property at the age of 24. He's navigated the foreign exchange market, and most recently, he's become a certified life and success coach where he specializes in helping growth oriented men and women gain mental clarity so they can confidentially align their thoughts and actions and their desired outcomes as a mindset coach. This makes him a very prominent figure in the world of productivity and time management. Before we dive into it, Myles, a little bit of an icebreaker question for you. What historical figure do you identify with most and why?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, first and foremost, Chris, I want to say thank you for having me. I really appreciate being on the podcast. I think for me, the first person that came to my mind when you asked that question was Kobe Bryant. Um, and the reason why is I think I've always resonated with what he stands for in terms of, I'm not sure if you heard the term, but Mamba mentality, which is really just tapping into another gear and getting into another level when you need to consistently and continuously push yourself. And he was always a big advocate of just getting 1% better, just every day, just continuing to be consistent and stack up the small wins after small wins after small wins. And um, although I don't think I'll ever, although I don't think I'll ever mimic his attention to detail, his and the amount of passion that he had towards his career. I think it serves as like a great Mount Rushmore. A great place for me to try and strive for and just keep in mind. So yeah, I would say Kobe for sure.
That's an excellent choice. Sounds like a good motivator for you there. Uh, Before we dig into the show, Myles, why don't you tell us a little bit about your journey and what led you to be where you are today?
Yeah, yeah, I'd love to. So I'm not sure where to start. I guess I'm from Whitby, Ontario. I grew up in Whitby, and I went to school. I went to high school in Whitby as well. Growing up, I played a lot of sports. My main sport was basketball. Um, Academics were very big for myself and my family, so I was always it was a big goal of mine from a younger age to try and get a full ride scholarship to a really good academic school, about a basketball scholarship. Um, yeah, so that basketball took up a lot of time in my younger years. In high school, actually after high school, I ended up going to a prep school, like I think like you mentioned in Florida, to a postgraduate program where I played basketball for about a year there. And yeah, after that, it was a really really interesting experience. I got to live with guys that were from all over the country, people from Canada, people from the States. My roommate was actually from Serbia. Some guys were from the Bahamas. So that was a really really eye-opening experience to be able to connect with people from such different places and learn about different people's backgrounds and that sort of thing. Um, so that was an interesting experience for sure. And after that, I ended up coming back to. So I ended up getting a scholarship to a school in Miami, an NAIA school in Miami Gardens. But I ended up choosing to come back to Ontario. It wasn't a full ride. It was about like 80% on 80% scholarship, and I wasn't it was still a pretty penny to pay the difference to still go there. So yeah, I ended up coming back to Ontario, and I went to the University of Ottawa, um, and that was a really really great experience there. So I lived in Ottawa for about 4 years. after I had come back. That's where I got my finance degree. I met a lot of great people in Ottawa, and really immersed myself in the university experience, being on campus, living downtown, and had a lot of fun during those years for sure. And yeah, after university, I was kind of just focused on trying to figure out exactly what my next move was going to be. Um, I known for a long time that um, I had a passion for learning. I had a passion for communicating verbally, and I had a passion for personal growth. So I knew that I wanted to do something that I felt would allow me to do all of those things. So after university, I kind of tried. I dabbled in a couple different things, and shortly after university, that's when I actually picked up trading. So I trade in the foreign exchange market, and that's been a really really great experience. Funny enough, that's actually kind of what led to me almost like being where I am now. Um, yeah, so I've done that for about 5 years. I started trading in 2019. Um, I started, and then I worked with the federal government. I'm actually still with the federal government, working with them now. Um, yeah, and yeah, I'm not sure. I guess where if you have any other questions about that, or where else, what other directions I think I could take you in.
Well, that's certainly a very interesting story, and it's interesting how life can sort of pull you in all sorts of different directions. I mean, starting out in Ontario, going to Florida, coming back to Ontario, uh, it's been you've been moving around quite a bit. And so, what specifically, when you mentioned you got into trading, and now you're working for the federal government? So, what sort of prompted this move into life coaching? I mean, I know that you've said that you've always had a keen interest and a passion for speaking and for personal development. But was
Hmm.
there any defining moment that really led you to make that decision?
Yeah, for sure. I think that so throughout, I think the last few years, the different things that I tried out, like I got my mortgage agent license, tried that out for a bit. I got into critical and critical illness disability insurance, tried that out for a bit. So I was over the last few years, I've just been trying to get into a field where I felt like I could do those things, but have a really meaningful impact and help people solve really problems that I felt were important, or I felt that other people would struggle with. And I think the way that trading kind of fits in there is, um, like I said, I got my finance degree when I was in university. One of my friends told me about something called forex, and it sounded like a really interesting way to make some money. So I ended up learning about the financial markets, starting to trade, and I had an idea that I thought before I started actually trading. I said, I don't think this is going to be all that difficult. I think once I understand the technical aspects of what needs to be done, the understanding of when to get into a trade, when to get out of a trade, that sort of thing. I said, okay, I don't think it will be that difficult. I think that would be a great way to make money. And I was very, very wrong. I think I found what I learned over like my years of trading was, um, it is very, very, very heavily based on your psychology. And I think that's really what drew me to trading. That's what kept me wanting to trade all these years, was that every time that you trade, you're battling yourself. You're battling, your beliefs about money. You're battling beliefs you have about yourself. Every day it's a challenge where you're forced to see if you're really going to walk your talk. If you say that you are going to take one trade, for example, and you say, you know what, today I'm only going to risk 1% of my account, and if I lose a trade, that's it, I'm done. Are you really going to be able to do that when you're in that trade? It was in your direction. You had an opportunity to take money, but you chose not to, and now you're stopped out. Are you gonna have what it takes to close the laptop? Are you gonna have what it takes to walk away? Are you gonna have the discipline that you need to not take a look at your phone while you're working when you know there's opportunities to make money 24 hours a day, 5 days a week? So before I traded, I considered myself someone who was, I thought I was a very, very disciplined person. So I thought that it wouldn't be that difficult for me. But I quickly learned that there's levels. And I think for me, what I struggled with the most was learning to accept loss. Um, because in the real world, it really helps. I'm sure a lot of people can probably resonate with this, but I know in the real world, for me, like I said, I play basketball. So if I'm playing basketball with one of my friends and I end up losing, for example, in the real world, I want to play again. I want to run it back. We'll play again. And that's something that served me very well in the real world, is that resilience, that not being willing to accept a loss sometimes. But I quickly learned in trading, it's the worst mentality that you could possibly have. It forces me to really humble myself, to graciously take a loss, and to just study myself, study my thoughts, what's going through my head when I'm having these down spirals that are self-imposed, right? So, um, long story short, the way that kind of brought me towards coaching is, um, funny enough, I actually got a coach to try and help me overcome some of these psychological obstacles that I was having with trading. Because I would see success, but I wouldn't see it sustained for a long enough period of time that at a level I was really happy with. So I ended up getting a coach actually to try and help me with some of those obstacles. And I actually ended up getting in contact with that coach only after signing up for the Jay Shetty certification school. And how I ended up doing that, I guess, was I was reading a book when I think this was sometime in January. I was reading a book and I just remember reading something, and it said that something along the lines of, like, if you know what you're supposed to be doing, if you have a feeling of what your purpose is and what your mission is, you need to start today, because you don't know how much time you have. You don't know if when you're going to get an opportunity to do that. Instead of trying to get everything perfect first, start doing that immediately. And that kind of just changed something inside for me, because before I was thinking, let me get this trading under control, let me get a good source of income coming from the trading that will allow me to get a very high level of financial freedom, and then I'll start focusing on some of my passion projects, the coaching, the things that really light my fire and fill my cup. And funny enough, I ended up taking that step. Like I said, signed up for the Jay Shetty school certification school, and I was able to get a coach to help me with my trading. And at the time, my thought process was, okay, I'm gonna get my certification, and I'll be able to help coach traders. I'll be able to get this under control once I'm able to get to a certain level in my trading. Then I'll just help other traders do the same thing, and that will be perfect. But um, it ended up kind of taking a life of its own. And kind of in that process, when I was working with a coach, I ended up being able to realize and just kind of question whether I was going down the right path, and whether I should be making and prioritizing trading as much in my life as I was. I'm happy to share more about that, but that was the connection between the two, and it kind of led me onto a slightly different path than I originally planned.
That is actually, an amazing story, because it is true, and that it's amazing that it led you to, to being the mindset coach. I think many of us can relate, and many of us can resonate with that type of a situation, because so many of us put things off because, we say, oh, we don't have the resources to do it, or
Hmm.
oh, you can't be a dreamer, you have to make money. What was it, the group? I think it was 21 Pilots. Wake up, you got to make the money. So I think a lot of people can resonate with that sort of a mindset. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, getting back to it here, how would you define procrastination and productivity, Miles? What do these concepts mean to you personally?
Yeah, so I think for me, how I would define procrastination, I think when I think about procrastination, I think about a self-imposed barrier. Specifically, I think a self-imposed psychological obstacle or barrier that is preventing you from taking an action that you know you need to take or feel that you need to take. I think that's what it means. That's what it means to me.
Excellent. And what's your secret sauce for overcoming procrastination and staying productive?
That's a good question. I think for me, what has really helped me maneuver through procrastination is optimizing for consistency as opposed to perfection. I think that a lot of us, myself included, it's so easy to get caught up in the details of trying to get something to be perfect, trying to get to a point where you feel comfortable enough with it before you actually commit to taking action, before you actually commit um, to taking that next step. And I think I've it's actually been a really I found it really empowering for myself once I was able to shift my mindset and start prioritizing and optimizing for consistency. I think that was a game changer for me because I think once you really think about it, I don't think there's ever going to be a point where if you're a growth oriented person, if you're a high achiever, I don't think you'll ever get to a point where you're just satisfied with where you're at. So I think being able to, or maybe I shouldn't say satisfied, but um, where you don't want things to be better, and I think just um, be able to maneuver through that and trying to optimize for what can you do consistently. Let's say you want to get up at 4:30, but is maybe and maybe you can, maybe you can't, but for a fact, let's say you get up at 9 a.m. right now, but for sure you can get up at 7:30. You know that without a question. Maybe for the first week or so, maybe you try and optimize for consistently getting up at 7:30 a.m. as opposed to the perfection of trying to start your day at 4:30 a.m. for example. Just as an example. And I think there's examples of that all over the place. But yeah, I think the secret sauce is just consistency and being okay with the imperfections.
Okay, then, well, consistency is pretty important. How do you maintain your focus and your motivation while being consistent?
I think for me, there's a couple things. I think the first thing is really getting clear on my why, getting clear on the reason behind why I'm doing something and what purpose is it serving. And I think having little reminders of that or big reminders of that, sprinkled throughout your days, your weeks, your months, I think that's something that really helps me kind of keep my eye on the ball. I think the other thing that really helps me is just really being cognizant of my environment. I think that's huge, huge, huge for me. I think being intentional about where I want to spend time, where I want to work, where I don't want to spend time. Um, Even something as simple as like, for a couple years, because I live in New Brunswick now, and that's quite far from my hometown in Ontario. For a couple years when I first moved here, I would be going home, going on vacation, go home for a week or a couple weeks, and then I'd come back and I'd notice it would take me 5, 6, 7 days to get back to the level that I like operating on from a productivity standpoint. And just being aware of that now when I go home, maybe I go home for a shorter period of time, or maybe when I come back, I'm aware that okay, I was just in an environment where I was just relaxing, I wasn't doing as much work, I wasn't in my normal setting. So for me to get back to that level that I need to operate at, or that I want to operate at, what things do I need to do intentionally? How can I be intentional about getting back to that level as quickly as possible? So I think for me, those are the two main things: is one, just understanding why you're doing something, what's your why, reminding yourself of it constantly, and just being very intentional about how you set up your environment, and your surroundings.
That sounds like a good combination right there. You know, knowing your why and you know being focused and having that consistency. So you've had some pretty good successes, and why don't you share with us some of your proudest moments?
Yeah, I think honestly, I'd probably say my the proudest moment that I can think of, honestly, is probably getting my life coaching certification. Honestly, I think prior to starting on the path of getting my life coaching certification, I didn't know what was off, but I felt that there was some sort of misalignment in my life. And I tried out different things, like I said. But once I took the plunge and I decided, you know what, I don't know if it's going to be perfect. I don't know how it's going to go, but I know that this is on the right path. I feel that it's going to get me closer to where I ultimately want to go. I think that was a huge shift in terms of how I saw my life, and I think how I saw the world, and how I started to show up, how I started to feel aligned in every different area of my life, like that. And yeah, so I think that would probably be my proudest moment, was just starting on the path of getting my certification, and listening to that quiet voice that I had in the back of my head for years, letting it come to the forefront and just trusting it.
And in terms of actually getting onto that path, what obstacles did you encounter? Did you encounter any resistance to that or anything like that?
Yeah, yeah, big time. I think for me, as I've spoken about, the trading was a big part of my life. So I'd always maybe not always, but I'd say, you know, a couple years into the trading, I saw that as being um a massive part of my life for some period of time. I always knew I wanted to do something after that, but I always saw the trading as being a stepping stone to me getting into that next level, that I felt I could operate at. And I think one of the biggest challenges for me was actually giving myself permission, to change course, giving myself permission to not to not put pressure on myself to feel like I have to make this work. I have to this has to be my bread and butter. I have to make a whole bunch of money doing being successful in this field. I think that that was a big challenge for me. And like I said, like psychologically, trading is very difficult, right? And I think, funny enough, like getting into a space where I was only able to make these realizations once I spoke with a coach, once they were able to open me up to my blind spots. Like I realized, like, I think I'm trying, because just to give you a bit more insight, like something that there's something called over trading. That is essentially when you don't follow your plan. You say you're going to take one trade, you end up taking two or three. Um, and people over trade for different reasons. I was always trying to figure out what my reason was, because when I was winning, everything was fine. But it was when I would lose, that's when I would start taking more trades than I should at times. And I learned that for me, I think it was really a way of me trying to validate myself. I was trying to validate the fact that you do know what you're doing, you can do this, and you're going to be successful doing this. And so that's why when I lost, I felt like, okay, how am I going to I just need to prove to myself. It's not even about the money. I just need to prove to myself that, like, you're not wasting your time, you can do this, and you're going to be successful doing it. So I was chasing that sense of validation, and I think that was really the only way, the main way that I saw myself being able to provide, you know, to be able to, you know, provide my family and my friends and my loved ones with the type of life and quality of life that I feel like they deserve. And I think being able to get to a space where I was really able to challenge some of those thoughts, challenge some of those beliefs that were going on in my head, I was, to my surprise, I was able to give myself permission. One day I was like, you know what, I don't even feel like I don't feel a pull. I don't feel like I just need to trade because I need to prove something to myself. Like, I found my path. I found something that I know I'm going to be doing regardless of the money. I know I'm going to be doing it until the day I die. And I think that was a massive challenge for me. It took me, I would say, 5 years, because I started trading in 2019. So it took me, I think, 5 years to get to the point where I gave myself that permission. And funny enough, after I gave myself that permission, the trading ended up falling into place better than I had planned. Like the last few weeks, the last couple months, I think because I've relieved myself of that burden, I've just been able to flow a lot better, and the results are showing in my trading as well. And I don't force myself to um I don't think I force myself to be successful or to make money in that field anymore. It just feels a lot more natural, and it feels a lot more light. And I think my mind, I think I can feel that in my mentality. And I think I'm seeing the results, and I'm seeing the difference in terms of how I maneuver, and how that allows me to be more humble, to be more gracious, to graciously accept these losses when they do come, and say, you know what, that's okay. The trading is not going to make or break me. It doesn't define who I am. It's just something that I do on the side to make some money. And if it ends up making me a lot of money, great. But it's not. I don't tie myself worth, I think, anymore, or my identity in, you went to school for finance, you're supposed to be good at trading, that sort of thing. So that was the biggest obstacle for sure that I think I've had to overcome.
Oh, that's something to unpack there. Thank you for sharing that. I think many of us can relate to. I mean, looking for that validation. You know, what should we be doing in our roles, right? But I mean, it's a great thing to always just take a step back and just think about it and just know that it doesn't define you. That is a very good bit of wisdom there. Why don't we talk about your current venture, Miles? What are you doing right now? Give us a glimpse into your world. I mean, we know about the trading a little bit. We know about
Mhm.
the government. Let's tell us more about what you've got going on right now.
So now, um, I'm gotten my life coaching certification, and I'm just in the process now of actually launching that business, Myles Daniel Coaching and Consulting. And yeah, right now, look, my focus on that business is like, I really want to help, the growth minded, the ambitious, the high achievers, um, the men and women that are really chasing a specific goal, or they have some sort of desired outcome and they want to get to another level, but they felt those self-imposed obstacles, those self-imposed psychological barriers that they feel like are preventing them from tapping into that next level. That is really what I'm trying to focus on now, is helping those sort of people um, achieve their desired outcomes. And the way that we do that is, or the way that I do that with my coaching is, um, there's really four main things. The first thing that we focus on is enhancing awareness. Just like I told you, the story about what kind of helped me. I don't think I would not have been able to take any additional steps, or to get an alternative perspective, if I didn't have someone that was able to help enhance my understanding and help me see my blind spots. Because no matter how much and that's why they're called blind spots, right? No matter how much you try and see them, you won't be able to, unless you get an external perspective, unless you get that bird's eye view that can say, hey, like, I can see something that maybe you're not able to see. So that's the foundation of what we do. That's the first step in the foundation of what we do. I think once you get into a space of enhancing your awareness, that helps you gain some mental clarity. And once you can get that mental clarity, then the next thing that we focus on is really reframing some of these beliefs. Most often they're limiting beliefs. It's some sort of belief that you're telling yourself, that you may not even be conscious of, that is preventing you from moving in alignment. And what I focus on is helping you identify what those psychological blocks are, what those limiting beliefs are, and reframe them in a way that will help you orient yourself in a way that is fully aligned with what you are really trying to accomplish. So for me, I think my limiting belief was, for example, it was around thinking that I needed to trade in order to validate some of my self-worth. I was able to reframe that in a way where it allowed me to open up new possibilities, right? So that's the second thing. And I think once you once we've focused on that reframe, then the next step, we start to shift towards mindfulness and just putting things in place so that the next time that you are challenged, that you're faced with that situation that is going to challenge that belief or challenge that block, you have the tools in place for you to be mindful, and you can make a decision of, okay, what what perspective is going to best serve me right now? What route do I want to go down? What lens do I want to look through that is going to serve my goal, serve my desired outcome? And then after that, the fourth and final step, I guess if you want to call it that, is really where we start focusing on building the actions. This is when we start focusing on implementing habits, implementing routines, so that you can start doing this at a high level, and you can consistently behave and act in a manner that aligns with what your desired outcome is, without feeling that internal resistance, without feeling that misalignment. So those four things that we focus on, which is enhancing your awareness, um, reframing your limited beliefs or your psychological blocks, empowering you with mindfulness to make a conscious decision on where you want this to go and how you want these thoughts to serve you. And then four is really focusing on the action so that it becomes a habit. Because, like anything else, you can put things in place so that you can get things on autopilot eventually, where you don't have to go through all those four steps and think about it consciously. We can get that to be in the background so that you can maneuver just how you want in the world. That's going to help you better achieve your goals.
Excellent. It sounds like a really well laid out platform and plan. So, if you had to distill your wisdom into one powerful tip, Miles, to those that you were looking to help, what would it be?
That's a good question. That's a good question. I think it would be, listening to that quiet voice that you hear inside your head, and giving it the respect, the attention, the the focus that it deserves. I think my personal opinion is, if you're feeling some sort of internal resistance and it keeps surfacing, I think it's I think it's almost like an alert, and I think it means that there's something in your life that may not be in alignment. And I think a lot of us know that something is off, but we don't know what that is, and we quiet that little voice that's trying to come through and get us on a path of self-discovery to figure out, okay, what's really going on here. So I think that's a big thing. That's a really big thing, I think.
Excellent tip, and I bet our listeners will be taking that one to the bank. So, in terms of the next year, where do you see yourself, and what are your aspirations?
Yeah, I think for the next year, honestly, I see myself transitioning from startup mode to being in full coaching mode. And to me, I think that means, helping. I'm hoping to help hundreds of people, at least, hopefully within the next year, if that's possible. Um, Help hundreds of people just improve their lives, whether that's through providing useful content on social media, whether that's through um, working with paid clients in coaching sessions, whether that's through doing some pro bono work. I think for me, the next year is really going to be about getting the foundation, I think, of the business set up, so I can start to really focus on impact, and transition into doing this full time. That's I would love to be able to do that, within the next year, so I can, help as many people as I can, and make the biggest impact that I think I can.
Sounds like a very good aspiration there. Is there something that maybe we should have asked today, but
No, I don't think so, man. I think um no, nothing comes to mind. I think you did a great job. I think you hit the nail right on the head.
and lastly, how can our listeners connect with you? Share your preferred social channels and handles.
Yeah, pretty much everything on social is at Myles Daniel Coaching. So you can follow me on Instagram. The YouTube channel is also at Myles Daniel Coaching. If you want to connect with me or have any questions, honestly, like whatever it is, you can either shoot me a DM on Instagram or you can email me at mylesdanielcoaching@gmail.com. It's MYLES. All Miles is with a Y, not an I. But yeah, I would love to get in contact with anyone who wants to connect.
Excellent, and we'll be sure to put all that information in the description as well, so that anybody who's looking to get in touch with Myles can do so easily. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Myles. Your insights and experiences are truly inspiring. To our listeners, thank you for tuning in to Procrastinator's Pit Stop and staying tuned for more inspiring stories and practical advice to help you conquer procrastination and boost your productivity. Until next time, keep pushing forward and stay motivated.